Hello students, welcome to Excel class number 15. The topic of the day is cell reference. We will prepare a multiplication table with the help of mixed cell reference technique. We will apply 150 formulas with the help of mixed cell reference technique. Equal to this, cell address D5 is selected. We are copying this formula in dual direction, that is from left to right as well as from top to bottom. So the column reference and row reference both will increment in this scenario. So we need to check, we need to ask the question for the column reference first. Do we need to freeze this column reference or we want to keep it as it is? So while copying this cell address from left to right, we need the value from the E5 cell. So we will keep the column reference as it is. And second question is for the row reference, whether we want to freeze the row reference or we want to keep it as it. These values are in the row 5 and row 5 is fixed for these values. We have inserted the column index number and row index numbers for these values at the top of these values. So row 5 is fixed for these cell addresses. So we will freeze this row reference by pressing F4 key 2 times. So multiply by this value. Again we have to ask two questions. First one is for column reference. Do we need to freeze the column reference or we want to keep it as it is? So here if you see, these values are in column C and column C is fixed for these values. Second question is for the row reference, that is number 6. Do we need to freeze the row reference or we want to keep it as it is? If 1 is in row number 6, then the value 2 is in row number 7. And again number 3 is in row number 8. So rows are incrementing in this order. So we will keep the row reference as it is. We will press F4 key 3 times. So we have dollar in front of column reference. Now press Ctrl Enter. See, we have the 150 formulas inserted with the mixed cell reference technique. Let's check the last formula, F2. So the first value is picked up from R5 cell. We want the 15. So 15 from R5 cell is picked up. Multiply by C15. So check, we have the value 10 from the C15 cell address. So cell addresses are correctly working in the last copied cell. That means the cell addresses are correct across the borders. So what do we mean by mixed cell reference? If we check this formula F2, so first cell address is D5. Here in this cell address we have column reference represented by letter D and number 5 represents the row reference. So we have dollar sign in front of row reference, that is number 5. That means column reference is relative and row reference is absolute. That means we have freezed the row reference 5. When copied to any direction, the row reference will remain same, but the column reference will move relatively. In the second cell address C6, letter C represents the column reference and the number 6 represents the row reference. So here we have placed dollar sign in front of the column reference, but the row reference is kept as it is. This means the column reference is absolute, but the row reference is relative. So column reference will remain same for all the cells while copying this formula, but the number 6 will increment accordingly. So this is absolute column reference and a relative row reference. If we check this formula in the last cell F2, so R5, so here the column references have moved relatively D to R, and in the second cell address C15, the column reference is the same but the row reference has moved relatively. Thank you.